like to introduce Frank DeCiso. Frank is the coordinator of communications and marketing for United Helpers in St. Lawrence County. Frank presents workshops and play shops throughout New York State for both public and private agencies. He is a published author and playwright. He's a house comic at the Mirror Lake Inn and Lake Placid. And his background includes being a paramedic in the Air Force, a child caregiver, a high school teacher of English and drama, a stage actor in England and Scotland, a direct care provider, and a program administrator. In addition, he and his wife, Sue, are avid hikers and climbers, which I can personally attest. I almost reached the top of the mountain last summer, and as I was reaching up like this, and I have a picture of this, Frank is stomping on my feet. He thought it was funny. But above all, Frank is a person who is committed to making things better for other people everywhere he goes and in everything he does. I'm very pleased to have him here with us.
Thank you very much.
His presentation will cover creating an ideal environment for people to live and work by, embracing the values of respect and kindness, humanizing the workforce, the blending of life with work, preserving and nurturing environments with professionalism, and finding a constant which is the form. We're certainly thankful to United Helpers for lending us Frank for the day. And I must say, anybody who can sing, play the piano at like 8 o'clock in the morning, it's got to be just an incredible individual. Frank, welcome. And it's all yours.
Good morning. Did everybody get a pen? Good. Okay. One of the cardinal rules of speaking is they say, tell them what you're going to tell them, then tell them what you told them. But I think if I tell you what I'm going to tell you, then tell you what I told you, that I can't tell whether I've told you or you think I'm telling you or I'm not telling you or I've already told you and you get really like, so I'm just going to start talking and we'll figure out where I'm going from here. I have a lot of experience in human services. I think everyone does. I don't think there is any job out there that is not a human service. So, but I just want to kind of talk a little bit about childhood and a couple of philosophies. And my mom used to pack my sisters off to school before I was old enough to go to school. But she'd still make me a brown bag lunch, and she'd write Frankie on it. And I would go to pretend school under the piano. So while she was playing, I would sit under here and hold onto her leg and rest my head up against the cabinetry and feel the vibrations of the music. And she would play Moon River or some hymn from church. My mother's name was Faith. Still is. She's still around. And she taught church school. She was a school librarian, and she surrounded my life with that music and affection. You know what moms do so well. My father is a passionate Italian. If I could sum my father up in a gesture, it would be dad. A classic pull my finger dad. You know what I mean by that? Pull my finger. A closet clown. My father had a way about him that even when he was stern in correcting some inappropriate behavior, he would find some way to turn it back on himself and make fun of himself. So he would preserve that relationship. I mean, my father would do stuff like, are you okay? I mean, that was my dad. He would he would pretend to bang his head on the door. I still do that. I do that for some of my clients sometimes. I open the door and hit my foot, it looks like I hit my head, but then they go ahead and do it on their head and say, that shit hurts. I mean, so I have to be careful. My father was not above the practical joke, as long as people didn't get hurt. He would hide in the woods and pretend he was a bear until my sister was terrified. Then he'd go just a little bit longer. He would tie firecrackers to her kickstand. So she'd go, and I mean, that disruption that we would get right around the diaphragm, that was essentially legal in our household, as long as people didn't get hurt. She would, when I was 6, she was a cruel 11. And she would look past my head at a darkened window at night and say, "Oh my God." And I would involuntarily convulse out of the chair and lie there shaking. She would kneel on my shoulders, reach behind her legs, and tickle my armpits until there was no wind left in my body. And but I got older and I got smarter. And I got a little brother, Tony. And he didn't have any younger siblings, and he's still not right today. I think that you need someone to pawn that off on. Tony, to this day, he's a corrections officer here in Ogdensburg, and he hates when I tell these stories, but sorry. It's still going on. He could be mowing his grass today, and I'll know while his back is to the road, all he can hear is the lawnmower. And so he's mowing along, and I always drive my vehicle up on the grass. I drive right up behind him with my bumper and lay on the horn. So he goes, Jesus! I mean, he's pretty jumpy. The best one is when we were kids, and my father had a cottage on Trout Lake over near Edwards. And Tony and his friend David they were like 12, and they were doing that North Country tradition. They were skinny dipping in Trout Lake. You know, take off your clothes, jump in the water. It's a North Country thing. And my father and I are up playing cards on the porch, and I said, "Dad, I'm going to go down and scare Tony." And my father went, "Be careful." Again, this is legal. This is essentially permission. You know, go ahead. So I'm walking down through the woods wearing cutoffs, and I step on a branch, and David says, "Tony, somebody's in the woods." And he says, "It's Frank." And he starts picking up boulders off the bottom of the lake and just like chucking them up in the woods. And they're just missing me. And then they dismiss me as being a raccoon. And I walk back in this bay where they can't see me. And I lie down on the sand, and I slide my body into the water. And I swim out about probably 50 feet. And I take a right and swim back. And I start bobbing my way in towards Tony and David with nothing above the water but my nostrils and my eyes. And I'm getting really close to them, and I submerge and start pulling myself along the bottom with the rocks and the roots. And I get right up till I can see their feet. And this is right around the time of the movie Jaws. And you know, if you're in a pool and you push yourself off the bottom of the pool, how far you come out of the water? So Tony and David are, yahoo! And I come out and Tony ran across the top of the water. I swear to God, right across the top. David splits the water in half like Moses, running out. And my father's standing on the shore with a camera. So these two naked boys come running out of the lake. And my father takes a picture, and there's this blinding flash. And Tony is so incapacitated with fear, all he knows is there's something bad out there. That's all he knows. The flash goes off the camera, and Tony goes, "Lightning! Lightning!" I am laughing so hard I'm peeing in the lake. I mean, that sensitivity, that unwavering sensitivity that my mom provided in the household, and my father's constant clowning, it was a culture plate for creative growth. And the music and the storytelling and the comedy. I mean, my father tells jokes. When my father tells a joke, he's got great delivery, except when he gets close to the punchline, he loses it. He starts laughing at his own jokes. But you have to, this is my father telling a joke. There's a guy at a train station, and he's holding 2 heavy bags. And somebody walks up and says, "Excuse me, do you have the time?" And he says, "Do I have the time?" "Look at this." And he pushes a button on his watch, and his watch says, "It is now 9 o'clock. The guy says, "Wow, your watch speaks." He says, "Look," pushes the button, and says, "Hello, in London, it is now 2 p.m. He says, "That's amazing." He says, "It's my invention. It has all the world times in the local dialects." I says, "Amazing." He says, "And what a sound." He says, "It sounds like the person's right." He says, "Look, push the button, beautiful stereophonic music just starts coming out." He says, "That's incredible." He says, Bose system. He says, look at this. Pushes a button, satellite map, weather, clouds, lightning. He says, accurate forecast for 24 hours. And global positioning system. I can see right where I am. He says, anywhere in the world. The guy says, astounding. He says, wait, voice activated. He says, Dickens, and his watch says, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. He says, 100 world-class novels programmed into the watch. It reads to me. The guy says, excuse me, I'm rather wealthy, and I want to purchase that watch right there. He says, oh no, this is the prototype, it's not for sale. He says, no, he says, I'll give you $5,000 for that watch. Well, it cost me $8,500 to develop. He says, I'll give you $10,000. He says, no, I don't. He says, $15,000. He says, for $15,000, I can develop another prototype. There you are. He says, there you are. He says, thanks a lot. He says, the guy says, wait a minute. He says, don't forget the batteries. and then my dad proceeds to lose it and laugh at his own joke. I mean, so you just, I had 4 things in life at that time in my life. Oh, by the way, I'm from Governor, New York. Sorry. I was in Messina doing a presentation, and I said, I'm from Governor, and this high school student said, where the men are men and the women are too. I mean, I said, whoa. At that point in my life, I had the 4 things that every human being needs. Every human being needs these 4 things. Sense of belonging, sense of freedom, sense of fun, and a sense of power that comes through achievement. Those 4 things. You take away one of those senses from someone, take away a sense of power, take away a sense of freedom or fun, take away a sense of belonging, and you have a less than fulfilled person. Well, at that point in my life, I was very fulfilled. But my mother and father lived with their mutual incompatibility for about 18 years of marriage, and they divorced. And Mom took my brother and I, who were the youngest, and we moved to Saranac Lake. I mean, when I talk about incompatibility, I had this dichotomy, this clowning, this sensitivity, this have fun, this be right. You know? Father, how are you today? I'll never forget being in church on a Sunday with my mom sitting next to me. I have a problem laughing at inappropriate times. You know, I mean, church is the worst. I mean, you start laughing in church, and you know you're going to make one of 2 noises. You're going to make this noise, or you're going to make this noise because you've expelled all the air out of your lungs, and you have to go, and everyone's going to know. I mean, even at funerals. I mean, there's a very thin line between grieving and laughing hysterically. And I'm in church once with my mom. I'm 10 years old. Man's got a program. He drops his program. It flutters out into the aisle. He's reaching for his program. He's stretching. It's just out of reach. He stretches till he stretches his entire body, and wind escapes from his bottom. I lost it. I mean, and I could not get it back. And my mom is like frantic. Stop. Oh yeah. I'm just gonna go. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I've gone. So Mom like drags me out of church, takes me to the exit, but I'll never forget. God bless my mom. About 10 feet from the exit, she starts roaring with laughter. I mean, just, you know, out she goes. She Frankie, what's the matter with you? I've never been so embarrassed in my whole life. So she thinks that if I participate in the Mass, I'll have focus. You know where I'm going with this, don't you? I become an altar boy at St. James Roman Catholic Church in Governor, my first stage experience. I mean, there you are, you know. And, any Catholics here? Any Roman Catholics here? You know, they receive communion now. They hand it to you. You know, here you go, thanks. And out you go. You know, I mean, it used to be a little bit more comical than that. People would walk up and stick their tongue out at me. And I would think about it. There's some ugly tongues in the world, you know? I'm supposed to focus, and there's a tongue coming out. We're talking geographical tongues, you know, like continents. Whoa, you know, and then we had these platters, these, what are they called? They're platters, okay? They're made out of stainless steel. And you would hold them underneath people's chins while the host was being, that's an exchange, kind of like a relay thing. And the priest has to be pretty cool at that. You got to practice that thing. Because, it's like a little Frisbee action because you don't want to put your finger on the tongue because then you got the next person coming up and it's. Well, those stainless steel things, we got new carpet on the altar one year, and I realized that they're pretty good conductors. And I'll admit it, my friends are coming up, and I'm scuffing my feet a little bit on the altar. I'm putting a charge on that thing. Yeah. He'd walk up and he'd say the body, and I'll tell you, I could just touch him. Just, and you would see and hear and feel a little blue spark. My friend Sue Kitchen dropped her retainer right. And I looked up at Monsignor McCarthy and Governor, and I gave him my best look. Look at this look. So, Mom didn't like the direction my life was going in that. I think that was part of it. We moved away. And at that point in my life, and I think a lot of you probably know what I'm talking about, that sense of belonging, that sense of permanence. And that's interesting because there is no such thing as permanence. Change is a constant. But that sense of permanence is what we all yearn for. We try to get that in our lives, that sense of stability and permanence. Some people never get it, which can cause a lot of anxiety. We moved away to Saranac Lake for a year. And a year later, my mother remarried a man in the Air Force, and I moved on to Plattsburgh Air Force Base when I was 16 years old. Now, Governor is not the most culturally diverse community in the world. We had one black person when I was growing up there, and his name was Mr. White. I get on to Plattsburgh Air Force Base, and what a marvelous experience for a 16-year-old. I had friends who were black, who were Hispanic, who were Guamanian, who were Thai. I started to experience that cultural richness that the world had to offer. And I made my first best friend. When you're in your hometown growing up in one town, in one place, you usually put all your emotional eggs in a couple baskets. Those are your best friends. And I didn't have any close friends. When we got to Plattsburgh Air Force Base, I met Mike McKinley from San Antonio, Texas, whose accent was always on the first syllable of everything he said. And it was just, and finally, I had a best friend again, and I felt connected. And we lifted weights together, played basketball, camped, and we were inseparable. And guess what happened? He moved. His dad got transferred. And off to California he went. And I was absolutely devastated. I had never had that happen to me. And my new stepsister and stepbrother said, "Oh, Frankie, you can't get too close to people. You have to keep your distance." And that's when I learned emotional detachment as a means of self-preservation. I'm not going to get too close, I became very good at going through the motions, and I became very good at the cool goodbye. I can't believe you're leaving. My wife will not be the same without you. You're my best friend. I'm really sorry you're going. I became good at it. I became good at not. This prepared me very well for my first career, my first profession. Because I was baptized by clinical fire. At 18 years old, I became a paramedic working in emergency rooms in a Quonset hut clinic in England. And on my third day at on-the-job training, a 19-year-old security policeman came in who had driven his car off into a field, connected a vacuum cleaner hose to the exhaust pipe, ran it into the back seat, and went to sleep forever. And at 18 years old, I was doing CPR, watching the carbon monoxide poisoning move right down his body as we circulated that poison to his body. And he was 19, his wife was 18, they had 2 children. And she came in and collapsed on him and threw herself on him, and I can honestly say that I was not moved by that. I'd been trained, and I'd learned how to step back and be objective. About a week later, Shauna came in, a little 3-year-old girl who reached up on top of the stove and pulled a pot of boiling spaghetti water down on top of her. She had a blister that connected her jaw to her hip bones, one giant blister. And if you know anything about second-degree burns, you know that a burn is a natural sterile dressing that keeps the burn from being infected. But when the skin breaks, you need to debride the burn. And every day, Shauna would come in, and I would strap her down on a papoose board and scrub that little girl's chest while she writhed underneath me and used every single word in her 3-year-old vocabulary to convince me to stop. And here's what's amazing, is she hadn't learned that detachment thing yet. And I'm scrubbing her. And I get done, and I put down Silvadene ointment and adaptive bandages and wrap a Curlex around her. And that little girl would reach up those sweaty, tear-streaked, trembling arms and wrap them around my neck to get off that table and give me the dearest hug, even though I was the one causing the pain. And I would walk out and give her to her mom and say, see you tomorrow, and do it again the next day. Everything wasn't always that tragic. I mean, there were some other things that happened in emergency rooms that were, had a guy come in one night with what we classified as a zipper injury. He had a baggy pair of trousers over a tight pair of trousers that came in and said, something's wrong with Moby. Swear to God. And I had to hold direct pressure on him for about 15 minutes. I've never done this before. Me either. Had a guy come in New Year's Eve one night. Well, it was New Year's Day, about 1 o'clock in the morning, with his 3 friends. Oh, man. And he walked. He's got a laceration from the top of his forehead to the bridge of his nose, a perfectly straight line. His friends bring him in. He was running home from the club, and he ran into the side of a yield sign. He didn't see it. Oh, and he's sitting in a chair, and he says in that classic drunk dialect, I think I'm going to be sick. And I said, just a minute, I'll get you an emesis basin. And I come back, and he's going, and there's this pile of vomit on the floor. And I cleaned it up. I wasn't there. What's interesting is when I came back and cleaned it up, his friends were gone. And then I brought him back in the emergency room, and I put about 15 stitches in his forehead. And I came back out, and his friends were there again. And they're like, you're a hero! Ah! And out they go. I go in the bathroom to wash my hands. That's where they had gone. See, he vomited. They ran in the bathroom. One used the sink, one used the toilet, one used the urinal, and just decorated the whole bathroom. And I cleaned it up. It didn't bother me. I wasn't there. I wasn't there. I became further and further detached and further alienated from my friends who still got wobbly kneed over somebody's ingrown toenail. I mean, do you know what I'm talking about? You see something, yeah. I didn't have that anymore. I had become this clinical dynamo. I had a black belt in healthcare. My father became seriously ill, and I came home to my sick father, and I could not find my sick dad. I mean, I could comb his hair, I could shave him, I could flush his IV, put lotion on him, powder him, change his bed when he was incontinent, because he was very... And he was appreciative of my efforts, but he missed me. And so did I. In 1979 at Myrtle Beach Air Force Base, South Carolina, there was an episode that changed me and made me think I wanted to get out of healthcare. A man named Robert came in with epigastric bleeding. He had esophageal varices, ulcerations on his esophagus, and one of the ulcerations had opened up right over an artery. And bleeding on the stomach is one of the most painful things a human being can go through, because the blood reacts immediately with the hydrochloric acid, and just there's this volcanic eruption of the esophagus. It's extremely painful, and so I had put a nasal gastric tube in him and was injecting Maalox directly into his stomach, trying to neutralize the acid. And you should have seen us. We were like ER. We had blood transfusions going, Ringer's lactate in every extremity. We had his feet elevated. We got warm blankets on him. He's getting ready to go to the operating room where he would die. But while I'm injecting the Maalox, I feel something getting through that clinical veil. I feel something penetrating. And I look down, and Robert's staring at me. He lifts up his hand to me, and I take his hand, and he looks me right in the eye, and he says, "Thank you." And he wasn't thanking me for my clinical prowess. He was thanking me because right there and then, he was scared, he was feeling very alone, and I recognized it and connected with him. So I got out of the medical field. Actually, not for another 2 years, but that changed me. And I started to do what I call improving my serve. I did 2 more years active duty in the Air Force over in Germany, worked in the emergency room over there. But I became really good at making a connection with people in an authentic way. And nothing is more frustrating than seeing good work undone. And I'm talking about human services. I worked with a lot of different physicians. Medical officers of the day, they would rotate through, take turns every day. We had some people who we had to call 4 times. Some doctors we'd have to call 4 times to get them up to come down to the emergency room. We have to plead with them, "Come on, this guy's really sick. What's he doing here? That's not an emergency." I could sew up children who were 5 years old painlessly. I would get the surgical eye sheet, and it was a peekaboo sheet, and I would look through the hole, and I would put it over their face. The little girl's face, I would tell her, "Okay, I'm going to put some medicine in your cut now, and it's going to make it so you don't feel anything, and it's not going to hurt, okay?" And they'd say, "Okay." And I would take literally 7 or 8 minutes to inject 3 milliliters, 2 milliliters of lidocaine. Now, everybody had stitches before, or you felt how much that stuff burns? Yeah, well, if you put it in real slow and you go in under the skin and you inject upwards toward the top of the surface, you can actually put it in very slowly and not hurt anyone at all. But it takes a lot of preparation and make a connection, explain what I'm going to do and this way, and you have a willingness to connect with that person at that person's level. I've had a doctor walk in, literally say I was taking too much time, push me out of the way, stick it through the skin, and just balloon up the skin with lidocaine, and the kid screaming, and undo what I've done. I watched a doctor come down to the emergency room. There was a man visiting his children who were active duty in the Air Force over in Germany. He was 82 years old. He made the trip over. He developed rectal bleeding. He was going to have a sigmoidoscopy, which is not a very pleasurable experience. And it's now they do it a lot differently, but it was inserting a tube about this long and this big around into his rectum and looking at his large intestine. He said, "Get the man prepped," which means put him on a table, bend the table in half, have his buttocks up in the air, his head down by the floor. I did that. 25 minutes later, the doctor's still not there. This man's upside down. I called. I said, "Are you coming down?" He's ready. He said, "I said I would be there." Busy man. So I flattened the man out and made him comfortable. The doctor came in and said, "I said have him prepped." Not a greeting, not a hello to the man. Pumped the table, bent it over, walked behind him, put some KY jelly on the thing, and just shoved it up there without saying a word to the man. Now, this man was educated. This man was a doctor. But all of that work, all that preparation, all of that connecting was done. That's when I decided that's enough. I can't do this anymore. And so I left the medical field and pursued a degree in education and working with children and connecting with kids and their energy. It's amazing to me how many teachers there are out there who don't like kids. I mean, there are a lot of teachers who love children, but there are a lot of teachers who just can't put up with that nonsense. You know, just don't connect with kids. How many of you are parents? Oh yeah. Okay. I find that humor is a wonderful vehicle for communication. And kids, to me, are just amazing. I love, I talked about the sense of power that people like have through achievement. How many of you have kids? So remember when your child was 3 years old? 3-year-olds? They can dress themselves. They can. They can get themselves dressed. You can put clothes out and they'll get themselves, they can even pick their own clothes out. Whew. But what happens if you're in a hurry? And you gotta be somewhere. You put that jacket on, you comb their hair, come on, and they're like, ah! Totally violate their sense of power. We'll do that. You know, we like to jump into people and take over. It's fun being an adult. You can control a lot. I love the story. This is a true story about the 5-year-old kindergartner who was in the back of the classroom putting boots on and going, struggling, and the teacher walks right back, sits right down, pulls the child up between her legs, and starts putting the boots on. Gets one boot on, gets the other boot on, and the kid says, "These aren't my boots." The teacher pulls one boot off and pulls the other one, and she says, "They're my sister's, but my mom makes me wear them." I mean, before I started teaching English and drama over in England, I substitute taught right here in Ogdensburg schools, and I was over at, I think it was Sherman School, substitute teaching kindergarten. Now, at that time, I was 31 years old, 6'1", 215 pounds, and here are these little dweebs, you know, walking down, and they had PE, gym class, and they're walking down the hall in a line. Not along the wall, but across the hall, they're walking in a line. And I said, "Boys and girls, you know, walk along the wall so people can get by." So they start walking along the wall so people can get by. Then the first one saw the water fountain. They're coming from gym class, and so they have to stop and get it. Have you ever seen a kid take a drink from a water fountain? And so, like, this is going to take 20 minutes. This is going to take a long time. Finally, it gets down to the last two boys, you know, and they're like, they have the fountain, and one's going, "Come on, come on, come on, hurry up." And he's, yeah. So I walk over and I ask the little boy, "Come on." "Okay, that's enough." And he walks down, and the last little boy, it's like, "My fountain," and he starts drinking. I said, "Okay, that's enough." He gets done, and he takes his little hand and reaches up and takes my big hand. And I'm like, "Oh, that's nice." And we start walking back the room. And then totally unconsciously, he raises my hand to his mouth and wipes off his mouth on my sleeve. I thought that was like a beautiful story. I just love that I want to connect that way with people and find out what it is, how I can connect with them and what their language is and what their emotional and mindset is. Go back to holding a baby. You know, is there anyone in this room who's never held a baby? All right. Good. 6-month-old baby boy. I just picked up I have a 6-month-old baby boy. I'm holding him, and he's looking at me like this. You're hairy and scary. And I can tell that this baby's about ready to go into tantrums and crying and being scared. I don't want the baby to be scared. What do I have to do? What? Maybe. What else can I do? What are some strategies? What do we do? Sing, talk to him. What else do I have to? Come on, what do I have to do? I have to do something with my entire being, don't I? I have to do this. And so now, you know, and a lot of things, stereotypically speaking, men can't do this, you know. Well, sure we can. I'm going to have to go to the bedroom. It's okay. Look into the it's okay. And now the baby's going to go, "Hey." And I'm going to make that connection. I'm going to totally change my entire being for the sake of this person to connect. Right? I mean, if a man walks down the street, if a woman walks down the street with a baby, people just kind of, if a man walks down the street with a baby, people go, "Hi, how are you? It's so nice to get daddy." I mean, it's something about seeing a man with a baby. But here I am, making that connection with this baby. Look at this. And 3 lumberjacks come walking out of the woods. They're all wearing red and black plaid jackets, carrying chainsaws and axes. And I might do something like this. Look at the hello, baby, how you doing? Geez, Crow, it's good to see ya. Where'd you get them clothes? Up to Ames's? Let me change my skull. I use that example with students when I'm trying to promote acceptance and tolerance for people with disabilities, but I think it's a really good example about how we need to find a way to connect with one another and with our customers and with our fellow co-workers, to find a way that we can connect that's in a meaningful way. But we don't like to do that. Let's go back to that emotional detachment. Keep our distance. I'm at work. Excuse me. I have a life. And this ain't it. I'm at work now, okay? I don't have to talk to you anyway. Think about it. You want me to connect? Yes, ma'am. I'm not sure. I'll tell you what I can do is I can answer some questions at the end when I'm all done talking. You want to listen to me a while? When I'm done talking. There are some people who will go out of their way not to appear to be a sycophant. S-Y-C-O-P-H-A-N-T. I did teach English. That's a polite word for a brown noser, for a suck-up, for a bootlicker. I give somebody a pen, they'll go, what do you want? You could be kind to someone, and there are certain people who will look at that suspiciously. People will accuse me of being kind to someone to win their friendship and to make them feel good and guilty. We're in human services. We want to promote excellence in human service. At United Helpers, where I work, we started this thing called Team 24, where every one of us is on the same team 24 hours a day. What can we do to positively affect our fellow workers' day? What can we do to make their job easier? What can we do to make their job more fun? What can we do to enhance their sense of belonging, their sense of freedom, their sense of fun, and their sense of power? Refrigerator in each one of the workshops so people can have refreshments. Handle that. Would you, how many supervisors here? It's an interesting word, isn't it? Supervisor. Let me look over your shoulder. You're doing. How many people have been supervised before? Oh, yeah. How many people have been supervised in a negative way before? May I pick on you again? Okay, I'm going to be a supervisor, all right? You know what you're doing right now? This is right. Let me show you the right way to do it, okay? All right, that's the right way to do it, okay? How'd I do? How'd I do? And good use of the word domineering. You're not going to believe it. The way that you're doing that right now is exactly the way that I did the first time I tried it. hell is that? Why? Yeah, I was the one who made the mistake. I'm the one who did it. Seems to make sense. You're intelligent. We're equal. Let me show you the right way to do it. Now, the other thing you could do is you could crack the whip. Anybody ever know any whip crackers? Is there anyone here who is a whip cracker? Sometimes you have to crack the whip to motivate them. I mean, there are people who say that. They have that written in some book on their desk. Sometimes you need to crack the whip. I don't have time for that. I gotta get home. That's where my life is. We spend more time at work than we do at home. We spend more time with each other at work than we do with our own families. Doesn't it make sense to make the environment where we work smack of the same values that we want in our life? And if you're thinking right now that, oh, geez, so-and-so ought to be here to hear this. If you're thinking that, if that's what you're thinking, then you have to remember the cardinal rule of behavior modification. In order to change another person's behavior, first you need to change your own. You catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. And you need to model. Talk is actions speak. Speed of sight is faster than the speed of sound. Show me what you're talking about. Demonstrate it to me. Model it for me. Practice it. Can you show me afterwards? Is that okay? John, crack the whip at. Do a little role playing for me. Correct me. Just go ahead. Go ahead.
Whip cracking, guys?
Yeah, go ahead. Snap it.
Frank, I've been watching you the way you're doing that. I'll show you how to do it.
That one. That's the way I did it. Come on.
All right.
Give me the cliche.
Okay. Frank, what are you doing? What are you doing? This is the third time this week I've got to talk to you about what are you doing. You know how to do this or don't you? Well, do you know how to do it right? You want me to show you? I'm a patient guy, I can show you.
Response you're going to get. I might not say it to only him. Or I say it to him, and then what's he say? Man, Frank and John are just like that. They're after each other. And what happens to the attitude of the environment? It's gone. And how can you expect someone to provide excellent human service if all of a sudden they're feeling hostility, resentment, and anger? We have another thing that we've started in our agency called a PACT, Positive Attitude, Communication, Teamwork. Yada, 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 yada. Although I'm starting to see it in effect at places like Hepburn Hospital. They started out with total quality management, TQM, and things. It's more simple than that. Think about what I've talked about as far as making a connection and connecting with people in an authentic way. Think about what you have at home in your life and how meaningful that is. And think about finding ways to model that meaningfulness at work. There's a wonderful book. It's called Thank God It's Monday. 14 values we need to humanize the way we work. Khalil Gibran wrote that work is love made visible. And if you cannot work with love but only with distaste, it is better that you should leave your work and sit at the gate of the temple and take alms from those who work with joy. I think so. And there's one more thing I want to... this is written by George Bernard Shaw, the second greatest writer in the English language. George Bernard Shaw is your brother-in-law? Wow. Might be a different George Bernard Shaw. He wrote, "A master in the art of living knows no sharp distinction between his work and his play, his labor and his leisure, his mind and his body, his education and his recreation. He hardly knows which is which. He simply pursues his vision of excellence through whatever he is doing and leaves others to determine whether he is working or playing. To himself, he always seems to be doing both." And think about the people who you like to work with. Think about the people who you are tolerant of when they make mistakes. Why? Because you feel a connection with them that's kindred, that's important, that has that life value. Are we tolerant of mistakes? Could we be more tolerant of mistakes? How many people in this room do not know how to juggle? How many people in this room have tried but still do not know how to juggle? So you've tried to juggle before, and you can't. Right. Would you come here for a minute? Please? Please? Thanks. Thanks. I will teach you to juggle in under 3 minutes. All right? Oh, you can juggle 2 balls. With 2 hands? That's not juggling. Here. Okay. First of all, if this happens, it's okay, all right? No biggie, okay? That's okay, then you know you have to move your hands a little bit quicker, and I'll just show you one more time. That's all right, okay? All right. Are you right-handed or left-handed? Put your left hand behind your back. Take this in your right hand. Okay. These throw up kind of like that. You have lots of time. You really do have lots of time to do this. Right? Lots of time. And you throw it up there, and then you have another one in your other hand. So what you're going to do is you're going to throw that one up and catch this one. Then throw that, and just take turns with one hand. You got it? And when you throw them up, be careful. Sometimes people do this, and then they throw it up like that, and it's all confusing. So what you're trying to do is it's easy, just take turns one at a time. All right? There's the purple one. Got it? There's that one. See, now, if you would have thrown that one up and emptied your hand, you could have caught this one. Let me show you. Now throw that one up and catch that one. Now that one. Now this one. That was good. If you keep them out in front of you and throw them a little higher, you have a little bit more time. And you can move your feet. Whoa, you got the round finger. Good. Okay. Now, take this one in the other hand, and it's easy, except this one keeps you honest, because this one's made out of a different material, and it's a little bit quicker. So you need to just kind of get those out of your hand a little bit faster to accommodate this one, and you're just going to take turns. First right, then left. All right? Right, left, right, left. There, you learn how to juggle. Cardinal rule for that environment. Number 1, safe. Safe environment. Doesn't matter if you make a mistake. You learn this when you're a teacher. You learn this when you're a parent. Let them make mistakes. That's okay. But how many of you are supervisors again? give yourself that litmus test. How tolerant am I of mistakes? When somebody makes a mistake, what's my reaction? A lot of times it might be stress. You know, seen it before. The human mind is a very, very fragile thing. I think it's got the consistency of cooked spaghetti, really. And then you think of it as just chemistry and electricity, and we want to help people feel better, whether that be a coworker or, I have one. Do they have a pen? Can I borrow one? Pretend I'm the conductor of an orchestra, okay? We're all human service professionals in here? Okay. Everyone say shop. Spell shop. Now see, some of you couldn't even follow the baton. You're S-H-O-P. Try it again. Say shop. Spell shop. What do you do when you come to a green light? Now see, you go on a green light. You stop on a red light. Now I just asked all of you human service professionals, what do you do when you come to a green light? And you all said stop. Human brain's a pretty fragile thing. Okay, ready? Ready? Say 10. Spell 10. What's an aluminum can made out of? Aluminum. It's an aluminum can. See, an aluminum can's made out of aluminum. Wow! Put your finger up in the air. Fingers up in the air. Wiggle around in a circle. Knock, knock. Yeah. Has nothing to do with anything, but it's kind of fun. Don, you saw this already. See what I got. This is Moo. Yeah, this, I like cow jokes. They're my bag. This is Moo. This is Deja Moo. You've probably seen that before. Seen it before. Wow. I've been doing a lot of speaking lately. I'm a little hoarse. He always says that. He always says. You know, you, sir, are a tough audience. I've been watching this joke. There it is. I've been watching jokes the whole time. How important is humor? Think about the quality of our lives. Think about the quality of your life at home. How many of you have a fireside calendar in your office? Oh, yeah. Dilbert. Do I have Dilbert in your office? What's the other one? How many people have, like, flowers in their office? Paintings on their walls? Have a radio in their office? Listen to music? Big sign outside the Psychiatric Center. May is Mental Health Month. So what happens in April and March and January? Oh, Jesus. Yeah, I can't wait till May, man. Wow. Henry David Thoreau said, to affect the quality of the day is the highest of arts. To affect the quality of the day is the highest of arts. doesn't take much to ruin a day for someone. And to preserve the quality of the day is a talent. And I think in regards to team building, what I'm saying is we need to find some way to accept a common goal and a constant in which to perform for our sakes. Because you do spend more time here than you do at home. You do spend more time at work. So doesn't it make sense to buy into this and say, this is the quality of the day that we want, this is the quality of life that we want it to be positive, friendly, we want to have a sense of belonging, a sense of freedom, a sense of fun, and a sense of power, and we want to promote that. And if someone violates it, they're having a bad day. Meaning, if John does crack the whip at me, then I'm going to say to myself, he's having a bad day. That's human behavior. I'm not going to say, hey, you're violating the constant, you're breaking the rule, because that's not going to get me anywhere, is it? And the next day, John might come up to me and say, you know, Frank, I was having a bad day, and the way I snapped at you was uncalled for, and I'm sorry. You know what I'm going to say? Don't worry about it. I didn't realize it. Don't forget it. See, that would be a constant. So it's two simple steps. Find a way to meaningfully connect with a person and humanize the environment. The baby. I got to emote. I got to show my emotions. I have to be a little bit more transparent. That might not be my personality, but I will change my personality for the sake of this person's well-being, even though that person's 6 months old. Would I do that for someone who's 46 years old? If that were a rule that I wanted to incorporate into my serve, I would do that. I mean, I told you about how I'm good at the cool goodbye. I will find ways to show warm hellos. Warm hello. With kids, I do all kinds of stuff. But I got to tell you, I work with a couple guys at United Helpers. You don't know what they're going to throw at you next. I mean, one stole the orange off another's desk, ate it, peeled it perfectly, and then put the peeling back on the person's desk. Told someone that they were painting out on the porch, had to move their car because there was paint going out there. So when she moved her car, he stole her parking place. That's cool. That's fun. I mean, that sort of thing. It's not going to be standard day, we'll throw something at you. And can take a joke well, too. We leave our cups, styrofoam cups, wherever we can in one person's office. That's the rule. You know, when they're not looking, you stick it on the beak of their wooden bird that's on top of their bookshelf. You know, and so they find out, damn it, Frank was here again, Jesus. I mean, that kind of cultural acceptance of each other, and let's have some fun. How you doing? Can you be that goofy? How are you? National Rifle Association. Don't do my own strike! How you doing? I'm County Gary. I've been to the Humor Project in Saratoga Springs 3 conferences in a row, and this year in Potsdam on June 12th, there's a Human Service Agency Awareness Day, and Margie Ingram, who's one of the co-founders of the Humor Project, is going to be doing a keynote on how to tickle stress and humor in the workplace. I mean, it just takes a little bit of imagination and willingness to paint outside the lines. You shouldn't have that problem finding that here. How? What? Painting outside the lines? Finding that here? Oh, excuse me. Forgot where I was. Is this? No. I think there's a certain truth in the fact that look at the gray matter that we're dealing with. You guys are all stopping on green lights. I'm not sure which one of us in this room right now isn't willing to deviate a little bit from the norm. Why do we go home and snap on Seinfeld? Why do we go on and watch Home Improvement? Why do we look for some idiocy and foolishness in our lives at all times? Why do we like to have something be not? What is normal? Don? Could you tell me? I'm not. Is it me? Whoa. Want to see some magic? Whoa. I'll do it in slow motion. Ooh. Disappeared. Oh, wait a minute. Can I give you back your pen? I need another pen. Can you throw me a pen? Okay. This one's easy. 1, 2, 3. It's right here. Sorry. Going outside the lines in that reaction. I want to show you someone who I work with. This to show you a beginning clip of a tape that I made for an agency in New York City about 6 years ago. And volume. That's Joe. Joe's 47 years old, developmentally he's about 4 months old. Joe can't stand people to sit next to him and touch him and talk to him. But when he's at the piano, he can lost in that little music and has a language that he understands. That's the kind of work most of us are doing. We're trying to find some way to connect with someone to make their lives more fulfilling, to make their life as awesome as ours. If the environment doesn't promote that same thing for that person, for that employee who's doing that, how are they going to be able to do that? The environment, I mean, you think of a community, it's not the buildings, it's not the grounds, it's us, it's the people within it. The stress, the inability to communicate with one another, our own unwillingness to emote, to show someone that we care because we don't want to be accused of a brown-noser, you know? That's poison. That's the negative glue of an organization. The positive glue comes from the stuff that you already know, that you already practice in your home life. The positive glue comes from emotionally embracing one another and saying, we're all in this together, and when we come to work on Monday, we should have a feeling of it's good to be back here. If you don't have that now and you want to create it, then again, you need to start with yourself. Let us pray. I'm just kidding. Got scary for a second, didn't I? And we get these. How many clinicians here? Clinicians. Yeah. You get caught up sometimes. We get caught up in diagnoses. I have a friend named Bob who I work for. Bob is 72 years old. Developmentally, he's 5 years old. He's a paraplegic. He had a cerebral vascular accident. He has total paralysis on the left-hand side of his body. He uses a built-up spoon, a Dyson mat, a scoop bowl. He uses a clothing protector when he eats. He can't close his mouth on this side. He drools a lot. He speaks unintelligibly because he doesn't have the ability to speak. He wears built-up shoes. He's confined to a wheelchair. He has congestive heart failure, and he wears corrective lenses. And what have I told you about Bob? Zip. We can get caught up in our profession. Bob likes to go to Ottawa. He likes the National Gallery. He likes horses. He likes Canadian beer. He likes pretty girls. He likes to be read to. He loves music. He likes to go camping. He likes to go fishing. He likes to go for long walks, so I push him in the wheelchair. He likes when I do stupid magic tricks. He likes my jokes. He likes hugs. He loves to be read to. He likes to go to Disneyland. He likes to visit his family. Who's Bob sound like now? I had the same presentation with third graders, and they get it. I think what we need to do is find some way to say, okay, we're all people, this is the hand you got, now I'm going to do whatever I can do to positively affect the quality of your day, whether you be a customer or you be a coworker. Find some way to connect with you in an authentic way and not look at you as just an agenda in my day. Just go look at you as just a brief encounter, a superficial connection. No. Find some way to connect with you in a way that's meaningful to you. I talk to third graders about coming into a classroom. Let's say it's my first day, and I come into a classroom. It's my first day, and I'm in the door, and I'm stuck, and I can't get out of crutches and books, and everybody who's looking at me right now, we all are. How do I feel? Third graders go, embarrassed. Right. How do you know I feel embarrassed? Because the look on your face. Okay, that's cool, but how do you know I feel embarrassed? It only takes me about probably 40 seconds to get the right answer. A third grader will say, because that's the way I would feel if I was stuck in the door. And that ability to be empathetic and to feel empathy toward one another and understand what that person must be going through is at the basis of every human service. To say, what's that person going through right now? What have I gone through that's similar? What can I do to help? There I go again. Sorry. I start ranting. I have a great book I'm going to read to you. It's called Wilfred Gordon MacDonald Partridge. Is it all right if I read you a story? It's very short. Is that all right? Everybody okay with that? Okay? Now, I just watched somebody go like this. Oh, boy. Great book. I'll show you the pictures, too. Okay? Oh, that's... There was once a small boy called Wilfred Gordon MacDonald Partridge, and what's more, he wasn't very old either. His house was next door to an old people's home, and he knew all the people who lived there. He liked Mrs. Jordan, who played the organ. He listened to Mr. Hosking, who told him scary stories. He played with Mr. Tippett, who was crazy about cricket, which is a game they play in England, much like baseball. He ran errands for Miss Mitchell, who walked with a wooden stick. He admired Mr. Drysdale, who had a voice like a giant. But his favorite person of all was Miss Nancy Allison Delacourt Cooper, because she had 4 names just as he did. He called her Miss Nancy and told her all his secrets. One day, Wilfred Gordon heard his mother and father talking about Miss Nancy. Poor old thing, said his mother. Why is she a poor old thing, asked Wilfred Gordon. Because she lost her memory, said his father. It isn't surprising, said his mother. After all, she is 96. What's a memory? Asked Wilfred Gordon. He was always asking questions. It is something you remember, said his father. But Wilfred Gordon wanted to know more, so he called on Mrs. Jordan, who played the organ. What's a memory? He asked. Something warm, my child, something warm. He called on Mr. Hosking, who told him scary stories. What's a memory? He asked. Something from long ago, me lad, something from long ago. He called on Mr. Tippett, who was crazy about cricket. What's a memory? He asked. Something that makes you cry, me son, something that makes you cry. called on Miss Mitchell, who walked with a wooden stick. What's a memory, he asked. Something that makes you laugh, my darling, something that makes you laugh. And he called on Mr. Drysdale, who had a voice like a giant. I like this guy. What's a memory, he asked. Something as precious as gold. So Wilfred Gordon went home again to look for memories for Miss Nancy because she had lost her own. He looked for the shoebox of shells he had found long ago last summer and put them gently in a basket. He found the puppet on strings which always made everyone laugh, and he put that in the basket too. He remembered with sadness the medal which his grandfather had given him, and he placed it gently next to the shells. Next he found his football, which was as precious as gold, and last of all, on his way to Miss Nancy's, he went into the hen house and took a fresh, warm egg from under a hen. Then Wilfred Gordon called on Miss Nancy and gave her each thing one by one. What a dear, strange child to bring me all these wonderful things, thought Miss Nancy. Then she started to remember. She held the warm egg and told Wilfred Gordon about the tiny speckled blue eggs she had once found in a bird's nest in her aunt's garden. She put a shell to her ear and remembered going to the beach by tram long ago and how hot she had felt in her button-up boots. She touched the medal and talked sadly of the big brother she had loved, who had gone to the war and never returned. She smiled at the puppet on strings and remembered the one she had shown to her sister and how she had laughed with a mouthful of porridge. She bounced the football to Wilfred Gordon and remembered the day she had met him and all the secrets they had told. And the two of them smiled and smiled because Miss Nancy's memory had been found again by a small boy who wasn't very old either. The end. Pretty simple message. And for each of us to provide that kind of empathy, to have that kind of empathy and provide that kind of support for one another, we all have that within us. It's just a willingness to accept that as the constant in which you want to perform. I can change the mood in this room like that. Tell you a sad story, tell you a happy story. All I tried to do from the beginning when I got here was foster connection through music, through comedy, through the arts, through shtick. Every single one of us in this room has that ability. You already do it with the people that you work with. You find a way to make their day be a little bit better, a little bit more therapeutic. But it has to start with us doing that for each other, for our own sakes. Every person who does keynote speeches usually has like an acronym that they put up there, and so I'm not going to make this too much. This is pretty simple. There's a period after each one. The C stands for connect. Make a connection. Find whatever you can do to make a connection with another person. The H is humanize. Allow mistakes. Show each other your own humanity through the use of humor, through the use of affection, through the use of kind words. Emote. Show your emotion. Show it. You might think, oh, they probably already know anyway. No. You see somebody do a good job, you have to show that to them. Some people will go out of their way. I'll stress that point. Some people will go out of their way not to show any emotion because they don't want to be accused of being a suck-up. That's part of the problem in an institution that's connected with negative glue. Recognize. Recognize what your job is, that you're in human services, that you connect with people as people. Recognize that that's the most important aspect of your life. And your job is part of your life, a large part of your life, a larger part of your life than you're here longer. So give recognition. If you see somebody do something good, say, you know, I saw you with that client. I saw you with that customer. I saw you with that student. I saw you with that inmate the other day. And you know, there was a real connection there. There was something going on that seemed to be very, very therapeutic. And you know, you're really good at what you do. I'm glad you're here. IS. Illegalized snapping. It's illegal. Take that out. And there's lots of ways to snap. Lots of. That's one of them. Think about it. Think about how you're promoting yourself. Think about how you're projecting yourself. Harmonize. You follow these guidelines and you decide that that's the constant that you're going to perform in this human service. You follow that, then the harmony part is easy. Just like with the harmonica, or the piano, you hit 3 separate notes. They all work together well. They sound really good together. Again, Thoreau said, to affect the quality of the day is the highest of arts. Thank you very much for having me with you today. I hope I've affected the quality of your day. I hope the rest of your Take a Break day is wonderful. Thank you very much.
Frank, thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
I think everybody has a schedule or agenda. And there's a series, it's probably break time now, and then there's workshops throughout the morning and into the afternoon. Is Fran here in the room? I wonder if she had any messages for us as we proceed with the day. And have a wonderful day. Oh, you gave me my pen back. Thank you.
I didn't mean to yank you out of the chair.